And we are here with the 10-year anniversary video of this channel. Crazy. It's absolutely crazy that I've been doing this for 10 years on this channel. I've even had other channels in the past, so I've been on YouTube making content much longer than that. Probably like, I'm gonna say it's going on 14 years now, as of February of this upcoming year. And that is just been an absolute crazy ride. And guess what? I'm still going. I have no plans as of right now anyway of quitting this channel or YouTube it altogether. My hobby, it's what I enjoy. So as long as I continue to enjoy it and as long as I have the time, I will continue to do it. Anyway, as you can tell, we are in a custom save file of FHM 10 with WWSY HL there. And what it is a league of all the custom teams that I have used on the channel over the years, plus a few callbacks to some other teams and just other series in general on the channel. So starting from the top, you got the Fargus Holy Knights. That is a reference to the Fire Emblem Three Houses Let's Play that I did on the channel back in 2021. I wanted to name them the Blue Lions, but the Checking Lions was already taken, so I named them the Fargus Holy Knights. And then you got the Tokyo Katanas. Obviously, there was that little April Fool's video that I decided to do last year, so I decided to include them in this. And then you got the reference to the Calgary Flames GM mode, the Christmas elf rings. And if you look at the logo, it's a literal ring with elf ears. And as for why I'm including some of these very odd teams in the simulation with teams that we have actually used, because obviously it's the 10-year anniversary, I want to have 10 teams in the league. So there you go. That's why. And then you have the Atlantic City Boardwalk Bullies. Of course, they are not a custom team, but they are a team that we manually inserted into our FHM, what's it called? FHM Road to Glory back in FHM 7. And that was part of our ECHL run, because I was initially with the, I believe it was the Fort Wayne Comets, and I didn't like how, in general, how things were managed in the ECHL with, like, you know, the AHL and the NHL being able to call up your players and stuff like that. I just didn't really like that style of management. So I created an independent team so that I wouldn't have to deal with that. And that ended up being the Atlantic City Boardwalk Bullies. So they're in here as well. Then you have the Salt Lake City Lakers. I believe that was back in NHL 21, or no, was it 20 or 19? I don't know. It was so long ago. Half the series just blend in my memory at this point. Let me check when that was. I believe it was NHL 20. Yeah, the Salt Lake City Lakers were NHL 20. So then you have the Halifax Tugboats. That was, I believe, NHL 17. And they were the relocation of the Columbus Blue Jackets, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. That was NHL 17 replacing the Blue Jackets. And then the Nova Scotia Supernovas, obviously that was back in FHM 8. And that was a pretty good team. The Seattle Emeralds, I had initially named the Emeralds the Emerald Empire. But looking back at that, that was like kind of, I mean, let's be honest. If you can't look back at yourself from 5 years ago or however long ago it was and not cringe a little bit, you're doing it wrong. So I renamed it for the purpose of this special occasion. I decided to rename them to the Seattle Emeralds because that's what it was going to be initially anyway. But just for a little context on that, I was looking up Seattle NHL 18 GM modes on YouTube to make sure that my custom team name wasn't interfering with other people's custom teams. And it turned out someone at that point had already done the Seattle Emeralds. And I'm pretty sure my thought process at the time was I didn't want to, you know, be copying someone. So I made the team name a little bit different, but hindsight, it was kind of, I wish I had just stuck to the Emeralds, but you know, you live and learn. And then you have the Checking Lions. I believe that was NHL 21. And that GM mode was actually done around the time that I had started the Fire Emblem Three Houses Let's Play, because I was doing the Blue Lions route. So I figured Checking Lions, maybe a little bit of cross promotion there, encourage people to check out the other series, because you know, it's a little bit of a hockey pun in there with Checking Lions. If you say Lions the right way, it sounds like lines. And then you have the Wolfsburg Wolves. That's honestly probably one of my favorite custom teams that I've done so far. I believe that was back in NHL 19. Yeah, that was NHL 19 with the Wolfsburg Wolves. So what we're going to do for this is we're going to simulate through 10 years, of course, being the 10-year anniversary video of this league, and see which team can win the most Stanley Cups. I mean, of course, being a custom league, it's not actually the Stanley Cup, but you know what I mean. Whoever can win the championship. And if you look at my name, Commissioner Jason, I'm not going to be taking control of any of the teams here. It's just going to be computer AI controlled teams, and whoever manages to win the most cups within that 10 years will be crowned the grand champion of the WWSY Hockey League. Now, before we do any simulating, I'm going to take a look at the league rules because there are quite a few differences from the real NHL. So as you'll notice, there is no minor league. It's just this league right here, the WWSY Hockey League. So all the teams here don't have any minor league team. All their extra players are just going to go on the reserve list. The roster rules are mostly the same as the NHL. The contract rules, I believe, are mostly the same. And as for the league rules, you still got 82 games between 10 teams. I don't know, that might be a bit too much. I might adjust some of the rules as we go just to see what works best, you know? So all this is subject to change, and I'll update you guys whenever I make a change. Or maybe if this ends up going multiple videos long, then you guys can suggest changes in the comments. So the salary cap is at 82.5. The salary floor is at 44 million. Playoffs start on April 8th. There's no all-star game apparently, even though I'm pretty sure I set one. Did I not set one? I thought I did. Yeah, it's supposed to be defending champ versus rest. That doesn't mean no all-star game. I didn't select no all-star game. There is trading allowed. The trade deadline is March 1st. There are league rights. There's no relegation because obviously there's no other league. Game rules. Now this is where things get a little interesting. You get 3 points for a win, 2 points for a win in overtime, and 1 point for a win in the shootout. And then you get 1 point for an overtime loss, 0 points for a loss in the shootout. So basically this discourages going to a shootout. Still got the 20-minute period length. Overtime skaters set to 3, 10-minute overtime length. So once again, discouraging the shootout. It is allowed, but if you have to go there, then both teams are going to be punished, sort of thing. And then the rules in the playoffs are basically the same as they are in the NHL. Obviously, we're going to keep tabs on each team as we go here. We're just going to have the new subscription settings for the entire league set to all. And with that being said, I think we can get things underway with year number 1 of the WWSY Hockey League. I'm going to set all games to 2D for this one just because there's, you know, only 10 teams in the entire save file, so I can't imagine that the simulation will be going too slow here. Starting with the Atlantic City Boardwalk Bullies, let's take a look at all the rosters here and see who their star players are. Now, obviously, being the commissioner, we don't have any scouts with us, so all the star abilities and potentials on all these guys might not be accurate. In fact, they probably aren't. But still, being the commissioner, we don't really need to know that. All we really need to see is the player stats and, you know, stuff like that. We're not going to pay attention to the abilities or potentials here. So on the Atlantic City Boardwalk Bullies, you got Nate McCormack in goal and Chris Keaton at center, and then Matt Corns on defense. Those are their 3 best players. There's McCormack, there's Keaton. Oh, wow, Keaton. Keaton, assuming these ratings are right, which I'm just going to go on the assumption that they are right for the purposes of this video. Only defense is a little lacking, but man, he looks like he's going to be real good. Matt Corns looks very solid, very good defensively, good puck handler, and then Nate McCormack is very good in goal. And here we have the Christmas elf rings. Oh, right. Before I forget, I have made Buddy Elfring. Oh, he's on Nova Scotia? Oh, no, we can't have that. No. We got to make that trade right now. We got to trade my guy Buddy Elfring to the Christmas elf rings. That's the only requirement here. So I'll just make sure that Nova Scotia gets something fair back here. I'll give him Tratsevsky and then say a 2nd round pick. I mean, this guy is 22 years of age, and then plus the 2nd round pick for Buddy Elfring. I think that's a fair trade. Forced trade, there it is. So there you go, Buddy Elfring on the Christmas elf rings. So now what I got to do, of course, is make his contract the maximum length, because Buddy Elfring on any other team is just unimaginable. All right, that's an 8-year deal for Buddy Elfring. Boom, there it is. All right, you know what? Just to be fair to him, I'll give him a little increased salary there. I'll make it 5.05 for the last 5 years. Anyway, on the Christmas elf rings, you got Dave Lively, also looking incredible. Jonathan Oma on defense. Bob Cunningham at center. Then, of course, the guy we just traded for, Buddy Elfring. I'm sure he'll be a full-time guy on the roster soon. Then you have the checking Lions. You have Maxim Banshikov, good physical category, well-rounded, 23-year-old defenseman. Should be pretty good in the league for years to come. Then you have Tomas Krobitz, good offensive defenseman, great physically. And then Justin McNeil rounds out their top 3 players. Good passer, good offensively in general, very good physically, only 23 years of age. Then for the Fargus Holy Knights, you have Artem Portnenko, very good offensively once again. So it looks like there's a lot of good talent in this league. to start out. That's certainly good to see. Ross Caldwell, very good physically. It's like a solid two-way player. And then Anatoly Lutsenko, very good offensively, very good physically, at a good level everywhere else. And then for the the Halifax Tugboats, you have Dan Price, solid two-way defenseman, it looks like. I love how the image is just on the jersey and it's sometimes you just gotta have a meme, you know? And then you have Radim Kopetsky, 18 getting open, solid everywhere else. And Peter Wolf, who looks to be a very good two-way player. Mental ratings are great. And then for the Nova Scotia Supernovas, you have, oh goodness, what kind of name is that? Kaksangir Issa Zanli. That is a brutal name to pronounce, man. Then you have Greg Linden. Thank you for your name being easy to pronounce. Good defensively, good mentally. Actually, I didn't even go over this dude's ratings because I was so focused on trying to pronounce his name. Great physically, great offensively, and it looks like he's even decent defensively. Great mentally. Looks like he's going to be one of the best players in the league, which is unfortunate because that means I'm going to have to pronounce his name very often. Going back to Greg Linden, very good defensively. A solid two-way player overall, it looks like. And then Hector Herrera with the solid offensive category, mental ratings, physical ratings. Looks like there's a lot of really good players early on here. Certainly good to see. And then on the Salt Lake City Lakers, you have Vitaly Kulik, solid defenseman who is just incredible all around, it looks like. Brian Turkildson, who is good defensively, good physically, serviceable everywhere else. And then Kevin Zook. So it looks like Salt Lake City is going to be defense heavy here. He's a good offensive defenseman and then serviceable everywhere else. And then you have the Seattle Emeralds. Looks like they're a little bit weaker than most of the other teams we've seen based off the star abilities here. Paul Sutherland, good physically, solid two-way player. Mental ratings are okay. Tommy Lessard, good offensively, good mentally, good physically. And then Jeremias Tervanen with the great defensive ratings. Good puck handler, solid mentally. And then James Kelly with the incredible defensive category, checking and hitting at 19. He is going to be throwing the body nonstop. Mental ratings are great. Physical ratings are okay. And then on the Tokyo Katanas, you have Valentin Ivanov. I feel like I should make the entire Katanas roster just Japanese. But unfortunately with this game and the way its roster editing is, that might take a while, so I'm not inclined to do that. So they're really just the Tokyo Katanas in name. They're not actually, you know, full of Japanese players. Anyway, Ivanov with the great physical ratings, solid everywhere else. Glenn Stevens, great physical ratings, great offensively, solid everywhere else. I mean, it's basically the same story with all these players, it seems. Just some incredible talents here. John David Dubé, great defensive category, solid offensive category, great mentally. And last but not least, the Wolfsburg Wolves with Lois Rivard, I believe that is. Physical ratings are great. Mental and offensive ratings also very good. Ray Gray, that's an awesome name. Physical ratings and offensive ratings are great. Mental and defensive are solid. And then you have Heikki Suonpera. Great defensively, anywhere between serviceable and solid with everything else. And then we are back to Atlantic City. Oh, and Buddy Elfring's nickname, I mean, it's pretty obvious, but Buddy the Elf. He was born on December 25th, so Christmas. Calgary, Alberta is his city of birth, so obviously implied that Doug Elfring is indeed his father. I mean, I couldn't put Doug Elfring on here because he's not in the save file, but you know, just use our imaginations here. Anyway, I think this might actually go longer than one video. I'm already up to 30 minutes on the recording, so I think I might just do this in parts. That being said, I do want to get through at least 1 year, and the simulation should be like lightning quick anyway, so we're gonna get through this here. We'll simulate up to January 1st, and we'll do a mid-season update and check in on all the teams and players. Hold up, really? The simulation's going this slow when there's only 10 teams in the entire save file? I mean, it's still, you know, it's faster than a regular save file, but I mean, come on. There's no way only 10 teams should be going that slow. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna I'm going to classic. I can't take that. That's much better. Yep, see? It's much faster on classic than it is 2D. And here we are already on January 1st. I didn't even have to take a break in the recording. So in first so far, you have the Atlantic City Boardwalk Bullies, who are 24, 5, 12, and 1 with 82 points. And then followed by the Christmas Elfrings, who are 23, 15, and 2. And then Wolfsburg, 22, 17, and 2. And then Salt Lake City Lakers are at 18, 4, 15, and 2. Seattle Emeralds are 17, 4, 15, and 1. Tokyo Katanas are at 17, 2, 18, and 1. The Checking Lions at 14, 4, 20-5. The Halifax Tugboats at 15-20-3. The Nova Scotia Supernovas at 15-3, 22-0. And then the Fargus Holy Knights at 15-21-1. Let's take a look at Fargus again. Yeah, I mean, their roster was pretty underwhelming compared to some of these other guys when you consider the star ability. I mean, they're one of the only teams besides Seattle that doesn't have a 5-star player, it appears, or 4.5-star player. Now let's take a look at the player stats around the league. Leading the league so far is Chris Keaton of the Atlantic City Boardwalk Bullies with, I believe I saw 66. Yeah, 66 points in 42 games played so far for him. Followed up by Herrera of the Nova Scotia Supernovas with 46 points. So the difference between Keaton and Herrera is not even close. So Keaton definitely seems to be the most talented player in the league by far at the moment. Then you have Dan Madden, 44 points. Cliff Tincher, Ray Gray in there at 5th with 42 points. Glenn Stevens with 41. Havel with 40. Portnenko with 40. Lessard with 39. Leftwich with 39 as well. Lively with 39. Morant with 39. It seems like there's a, like after, basically from Herrera onward, it looks like the talent relatively evens out after Keaton. Like Keaton's just far and away the best player in the league. And then everyone after him is very close together, at least up to a certain point, you know? Like I would say the top 20 are very close in terms of talent level, at least from what we're seeing so far. Let's see where my boy Buddy Elfring is. Actually, there's that Ixalanxi guy or whatever, however his name is pronounced, but it doesn't seem he's having the greatest year. Only 3 points in 5 games played so far. He's not playing Nova Scotia. He must have had an injury. That's the only reason I can think. Let's see his injury history. What am I doing? I'm not even looking at the right thing. Bio, right? Yeah, he had an injury, torn groin, 77 days. Bit unfortunate. So that must have been why he only played 5 games there. But let's get a look at where Elfring was. He might just be on the reserves because he was only a half-star ability, I believe, at 17 years of age. Oh no, he has played. I guess I just didn't see him. He has indeed played. He has played 34 games so far in 6 points. So hopefully he can grow from his time here in the WWSY HL. Oh, we have a trade between Fargus and Nova Scotia. The Holy Knights send Getzlaf to the Supernovas for a 2nd round pick. Yeah, I mean, Fargus is rebuilding. I mean, at least according to their record, they are. Because on the current outlook, it says balanced, but they're obviously in a state where they're not going to be, you know, trading for veterans or anything. All right, so here are the final league standings for year number 1. The Atlantic City Boardwalk Bullies finished first with a record of 57, 24-1, 163 points on the season, and a 63 goal differential. The Christmas Elfrings following behind them in second with 137 points. The Salt Lake City Lakers with 136. The Nova Scotia Supernovas with 121. The Tokyo Katanas with 117, the Seattle Emeralds with 112, the Halifax Tugboats with 110, the same for the Wolfsburg Wolves, and then the 2 teams out of the playoffs are the Checking Lions with 90 points, and then the Fargus Holy Knights with 86. So here's the playoff bracket. You have Wolfsburg versus the Atlantic City Boardwalk Bullies, you have the Halifax Tugboats versus the Christmas Elfrings, you have the Seattle Emeralds versus the Salt Lake City Lakers, and the Tokyo Katanas versus the Nova Scotia Supernovas. Before we get into the playoffs, let's just take one more look at the league stats for the season. Keaton leading with 135 points, the only player to 100 points this year. Herrera and Stevens were close, but Keaton just absolutely tears the league apart, as the difference between him and second is really not even close. Then the team stats, goals for per game. Atlantic City, of course, led the league with a 3.39. Followed by Nova Scotia and Salt Lake City. The Tokyo Katanas had the best defensive effort with a 2.61, followed up by Atlantic City with the 2.65. Face-offs, Atlantic City was the best with the 53.4. Power play, Nova Scotia was the best with the 24.1. And then the penalty kill, Seattle was the best with an 87%. So with that being said, let's get through the playoffs of year number 1. Oh boy, we are at game number 7 between the Nova Scotia Supernovas and the Halifax Tugboats. So the 2 teams based in Halifax going at it in the league championship. I almost said Stanley Cup championship, but no, that's it's not the case. Who's going to be the champion of year number 1? It will be the Nova Scotia Supernovas, who passed Tokyo, Salt Lake City, and Halifax in the playoffs. Congratulations, Nova Scotia. You win year number 1. So there it is, the first official champions of the WWSY Hockey League. are the Nova Scotia Supernovas. And I think with that being said, I'm going to have to split this into multiple videos. It's been a long video already, so I'm going to end things off here. And the next one, we will continue the simulation in the WWSY Hockey League for the 10-year anniversary of this channel.